In a small, forgotten town in the Midwest, where the fields stretched endlessly and the wind carried whispers of the past, stood Blackwood House. Abandoned for decades, it loomed at the end of a winding dirt road, its once white paint now a mottled gray, windows boarded up like eyes shut tight against the world. The townspeople avoided it, sharing hushed stories of the strange occurrences that plagued the property since the tragic disappearance of the Blackwood family in the late 1950s. The family had been beloved in the community, known for their hospitality and laughter. But one fateful autumn night, after a lively harvest festival, they vanished without a trace. The only thing left behind was a shattered front window and an empty house, standing like a silent witness to an unspeakable event. Rumors swirled. Some said they had been taken by the woods that surrounded the property, while others whispered of a darkness that lingered within the walls of Blackwood House. Years later, a group of adventurous college students, Emma, Josh, Kelly, and Michael, decided to explore the infamous house. Armed with flashlights and a video camera, they were eager to document their findings, drawn by the allure of the supernatural. As they approached, the wind howled through the trees, sending chills down their spines. The front door creaked open at a light push, revealing a dimly lit foyer filled with dust and memories. The air was thick with the scent of mildew and decay, and the faint sound of music seemed to echo through the halls, an old lullaby that sent shivers coursing through Emma. "Did you hear that?" she asked, her voice trembling. "It's just the wind," Josh replied dismissively, though he couldn't shake the unease creeping up his spine. They ventured deeper into the house, exploring the living room where old furniture lay draped in white sheets, like ghosts waiting for release. Faded photographs lined the mantel, capturing moments of joy-smiling faces, laughter frozen in time. Yet, a shadow loomed over the images, an unshakable sense of loss hanging in the air. As they climbed the creaking staircase, a chill swept through the hallway. The group stopped in front of a door at the end of the corridor, its wood warped and splintered. Emma felt a pull, an inexplicable urge to open it. "Let's check this room." Inside, the room was a time capsule. A child's bedroom, complete with a small bed, a rocking horse, and a stack of dusty books. The walls were painted a soft blue, now faded and peeling. In the corner sat a toy chest partially open. Emma approached it, her heart racing. "What's inside?" She lifted the lid, revealing a collection of old toys, dolls with glassy eyes, a tattered teddy bear, and a music box that seemed to hum softly despite the stillness of the room. The lullaby filled the air, making Emma's skin crawl. Suddenly, a soft whisper echoed in her ear. "Help me." Startled, she spun around, but the room was empty. "Did you guys hear that?" she asked, her voice quaking. Kelly and Michael exchanged nervous glances. "It's just your imagination," Michael said, though his tone lacked conviction. They decided to explore more, moving toward a door that led to the attic. As they climbed the narrow stairs, the air grew colder, and the sound of footsteps followed them, echoing eerily in the silence. At the top, they pushed open the door, revealing a dusty space filled with old trunks and cobwebs. "Let's split up and see what we can find," Josh suggested, the thrill of adventure outweighing the fear in the air. As Emma rifled through a trunk, she felt the hair on the back of her neck stand on end. Among the old clothes and trinkets, she found a journal, its pages yellowed and brittle. Opening it carefully, she began to read the entries, written in a child's scrawl. They chronicled the daily life of a girl named Lila Blackwood, filled with tales of playing in the woods and dreams of becoming a dancer. But as she read on, the tone shifted, becoming frantic and desperate. "Mommy is sad. Daddy is gone. I hear them in the woods at night. They want to play." Emma's heart raced. She flipped to the last entry, written hastily. "I can't find them. They're calling me." Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from below, followed by frantic whispers. "Guys!" Emma called, her voice shaking. "What was that?" The others hurried back up the stairs, faces pale. "We need to leave," Kelly urged, glancing nervously at the door. Just as they turned to go, the attic door slammed shut, plunging them into darkness. Panic surged through the group as they fumbled for their flashlights, the sound of soft, childish laughter echoing around them. "Lila," Emma whispered, the name slipping from her lips. "Is that you?" A small, glowing figure materialized at the far end of the attic, the faint outline of a girl in a white dress. "Help me find them," Lila pleaded, her voice a haunting melody. "They're lost in the woods." The group froze, the weight of Lila's sorrow pressing down on them. "What do you mean?" Emma asked, her heart pounding. "They took them," Lila said, her eyes wide with fear. "They were playing, and they never came back." "Who took them?" Josh asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "The shadows," Lila replied, her form flickering. "They're hungry." As the walls around them began to tremble, Emma felt a surge of urgency. "We can help you. Show us where to find them." Lila's ghostly hand pointed toward the attic window, which suddenly swung open, revealing a view of the dark, twisted woods outside. "Follow the path. They're waiting." Without thinking, the group rushed to the window, the shadows in the room swirling around them. They climbed through the window and landed softly in the overgrown grass, the cool night air filling their lungs. The woods loomed before them, thick and ominous. They followed a narrow path, the sound of laughter growing louder. Emma led the way, driven by a sense of purpose, but with every step, the shadows seemed to stretch and reach for them. "Stay together," Kelly urged, glancing nervously over her shoulder. As they ventured deeper, the laughter turned into shrieks, echoing in the stillness. "Lila, where are you?" Emma called, fear creeping in. Then, they stumbled into a small clearing, where the moonlight illuminated a scene that made their blood run cold. In the center stood two ghostly figures, Clara and Henry, the missing Blackwood children. They played among the trees, their laughter twisted and eerie, their eyes vacant. "Come play with us," Clara called, her voice laced with an unsettling sweetness. "No, we need to help you," Emma shouted, desperation flooding her voice. "You don't belong here." As she stepped closer, the shadows grew thicker, swirling around her like a storm. "Help us," Henry echoed, but the darkness began to pull them away. With a surge of determination, Emma grabbed the journal from her backpack and held it high. "You have to remember who you are," she shouted. "You're not lost. You belong to the light." The shadows hissed, recoiling at the sight of the journal. Lila appeared beside Emma, her face radiant. "They need to remember," she urged. The children's laughter faded into frightened cries as the shadows wrapped around them, tightening their grip. "Please help us," Clara pleaded, tears streaming down her spectral face. Emma took a deep breath and began to recite the last entry from the journal, her voice steady. "We can find you. Just hold on." As she spoke, a warm light began to emanate from the journal, cutting through the darkness. The shadows writhed and shrieked, their hold on the children loosening. "No, don't let them go," they howled. With a final, desperate cry, Emma reached out, her hand extended toward Clara and Henry. "Come to us. You're not lost. You have to choose." As if compelled by an unseen force, the children began to move towards her, the light pulling them in. "Mommy! Daddy!" they cried, reaching for the warmth of their family. In an explosive burst of light, the shadows dissipated, and the children's spirits broke free, merging with Lila's ethereal form. They surrounded Emma, their faces filled with gratitude. "Thank you," they whispered in unison before vanishing into the night. The woods fell silent, the oppressive darkness lifting as dawn broke over the horizon. Emma and her friends stood alone in the clearing, the journal warm in her hands. They had set the Blackwood family free. As they made their way back to the house, the sunlight poured over the land, illuminating the path ahead. The haunting echoes of Blackwood House faded, leaving behind a sense of peace and closure. But as they reached the front door, Emma paused, glancing back at the woods. A soft breeze rustled the leaves, and she could almost hear the laughter of children playing, now free to roam the fields of eternity. Though they had closed one chapter, She knew that the spirit of the Blackwood family would forever linger, a reminder of the power of love and the courage to confront the darkness. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you liked this story. As Emma and her friends stood at the threshold of Blackwood House, a sense of unease began to settle back into their bones. The sun was rising, casting long shadows across the porch, but the air felt heavy, as if the house itself was holding its breath. "Do you think it's really over?" Kelly asked, glancing back at the woods. "I mean, we helped them, but what if something else is still here?" Michael shrugged, but he looked uneasy. "We've faced the darkness. We freed the kids. That should be enough, right?" Emma felt a knot tighten in her stomach. It's not just about freeing them. It's about what they went through and what might still linger. As they stepped back inside the house, the atmosphere shifted once more. The walls felt alive, the air charged with something unnameable. Emma felt an inexplicable urge to return to the attic. Something was calling to her, a pull she couldn't ignore. "Let's check the attic again," Emma suggested, her voice steady despite the apprehension swirling in her chest. "Are you sure that's a good idea?" Josh hesitated, the memory of their earlier encounter still fresh in his mind. But Emma felt determined. "We need to see if there's anything left, any remnants of what happened. We have to understand it fully." They climbed the creaky stairs once more, the familiar chill washing over them as they reached the attic door. It creaked open slowly, revealing the dim, dusty room. The sunlight filtered through a small window, casting an ethereal glow on the forgotten toys and furniture. As they entered, Emma noticed something new, a shadow flickering near the rocking chair, moving as if it had a life of its own. Heart racing, she stepped closer, and the air around her thickened, pulsing with energy. "Do you see that?" she whispered, pointing to the chair. The others nodded, their faces pale. "What is it?" Kelly asked, her voice barely audible. "I think it's Lila," Emma breathed, stepping forward. "She might be trying to show us something." Suddenly, the shadow solidified into a figure, Lila's ethereal form materializing before them, her face a mixture of sadness and hope. "You came back," she said softly, her voice echoing like a distant memory. "What do you need, Lila?" Emma asked, her heart pounding. "We thought we set you all free." "I am free," Lila replied, her voice growing stronger. "But the darkness, still here, feeds on sorrow and fear. You must help me cleanse the house." "Cleanse it?" Josh echoed, confusion etched on his face. "How do we do that?" "The shadows are bound to the pain of the past," Lila explained. "You must confront them, acknowledge the hurt, and then let it go. Only then can peace truly come." Emma felt a chill race down her spine. "What if we can't? What if we can't face it?" Lila's gaze softened. "You already have the strength. You faced the woods and freed my family. You must confront the darkness that remains within these walls. Only then can we all be free." As Lila spoke, a gust of wind swept through the attic, and the temperature dropped sharply. The laughter of children faded, replaced by the whispers of something malevolent, echoing through the rafters. "You shouldn't have come back. Stay together," Emma urged, her voice steadying as she looked to her friends. "We can do this." The group formed a tight circle, each of them holding hands. Emma closed her eyes, focusing on the warmth of Lila's spirit. "We're here to help," she called out, her voice echoing in the stillness. "We acknowledge the pain, the loss, and the sorrow. We are not afraid." As she spoke, the shadows flickered, swirling around them like a tempest. The whispers grew louder, intertwining with their fears. "You'll never escape." The air felt electric, charged with energy, and Emma could feel the weight of the house pressing down on her. She envisioned the warmth of the sun, the laughter of children playing, the love that once filled these walls. "You are not welcome here," she shouted, her voice ringing out. With every word, the shadows recoiled, hissing and swirling. "Leave us!" they screeched, their voices a cacophony of anger and despair. "Show us what you are," Josh cried, his grip tightening on Emma's hand. "Reveal yourselves." In response, The shadows coalesced into dark figures, twisted and grotesque, mirroring the pain of their origins. The figures wept, their forms flickering like dying embers. "We are the lost," one whispered, its voice dripping with sorrow. "We are forgotten." Emma felt a surge of compassion. "You don't have to stay trapped here. We can help you find peace." The shadows faltered, hesitating. "Peace?" one echoed, its voice trembling. "We have known only pain." "You can choose to let go," Emma urged, her heart racing. "Let the light in. Remember who you were, the love you had. You can be free." As her words hung in the air, the figures began to shift, their forms softening, revealing glimpses of the Blackwood family: Eleanor, Thomas, Clara, and Henry, lost but not gone. They stood together, their faces etched with sorrow and longing. "Mommy! Daddy!" Lila cried, her voice breaking. "Come home!" The shadows hesitated, the light flickering at the edges of their forms. The air grew heavy with tension, but then, something shifted. A warmth began to fill the attic, radiating from Emma and her friends, growing stronger as they held on to hope. "Let us help you," Emma said, tears streaming down her cheeks. "We are here for you." With a sudden rush, the shadows surged forward, colliding with the warmth of the light. The figures shimmered, swirling around Lila and embracing her. Together, they whispered, their voices weaving into a harmony that resonated through the attic. And then, with a brilliant flash of light, the darkness shattered, sending a wave of warmth washing over them. The shadows dissolved, replaced by a gentle glow that enveloped the room. Emma opened her eyes, heart racing. The attic was transformed, bright, filled with warmth and light. The laughter of children echoed once more, a joyous sound that filled the space. As the light faded, the figures of the Blackwood family stood before them, now radiant and whole. Eleanor knelt, pulling Lila into her arms. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice filled with love. "You have given us back our family." Emma felt a rush of joy, knowing they had freed the spirits at last. But as the warmth enveloped her, a shiver crept down her spine. "What happens now?" she asked, a hint of trepidation in her voice. Eleanor smiled gently, her eyes glistening with tears. "We can finally move on. But you must remember, the past is never truly gone. It lives in your hearts." With those final words, the family began to fade, their forms becoming one with the light. Lila turned to Emma, her face radiant. "Thank you for believing," she said softly, before disappearing into the bright warmth. As the last remnants of the Blackwood family vanished, the attic felt lighter, the shadows lifting like a mist. Emma and her friends stood together, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what they had just experienced. But as they turned to leave, a faint echo lingered in the air, a whisper of laughter, a reminder of the love that had once filled the house. Emma glanced back at the attic, feeling a mixture of loss and gratitude. They had brought peace to the past, but something in her heart told her that their connection to Blackwood House was far from over. Stepping back into the sunlight, they knew they had closed one chapter, but another awaited. They would carry the stories of the Blackwood family with them, and perhaps, in the quiet moments of their lives, they would hear the echoes of laughter and feel the warmth of love that transcended time. But as they made their way down the porch steps, the wind rustled through the trees, and Emma felt a soft tug at her heart, a reminder that the stories of those who had come before were always with them, woven into the very fabric of their existence. And perhaps, just perhaps, there were still more secrets waiting to be uncovered in the heart of Blackwood House. As Emma and her friends stepped out into the sunlight, the warmth washed over them like a comforting embrace. They exchanged glances, a mixture of awe and relief coursing through their veins. But Emma couldn't shake the feeling that their journey wasn't quite over. "Let's get out of here," Josh suggested, trying to break the tension. "We've had enough ghostly encounters for one night." "Wait," Emma said, her gaze lingering on the house. "What if there's more we need to know? What if the house still has secrets?" "Like what?" Kelly asked, crossing her arms. "We just freed an entire family from a haunting. What else could possibly be left?" "I don't know," Emma admitted, her brow furrowed. But it feels unfinished. Maybe there are more stories hidden here. Against the growing unease in the air, Emma led them back inside, the door creaking as if inviting them in one last time. They made their way through the now familiar rooms, the weight of history palpable in every corner. The air was lighter, but remnants of sorrow still lingered, whispering through the halls. "Let's check the basement," Michael suggested, his voice tentative. "I have a feeling we missed something important down there." They descended the rickety stairs, the darkness enveloping them as they reached the basement door. Emma felt a flutter of apprehension in her stomach but pressed on, the allure of the unknown drawing her closer. They flicked on their flashlights, illuminating the damp, cobweb-covered space. Old furniture lay strewn about, and boxes filled with forgotten items filled the corners. But something caught Emma's eye, a small, ornate box tucked away on a shelf, its surface gleaming despite the dust. "What's that?" she said, moving toward it, heart racing. The others followed, curiosity piqued. As she reached for the box, a cold draft swept through the basement, extinguishing their flashlights. "What the?" Josh exclaimed, plunging them into darkness. "Everyone stay calm," Emma said, trying to keep her voice steady as she felt along the shelf. "I've got it." With trembling hands, she opened the box. Inside lay a collection of old letters, yellowed and fragile. She pulled one out, its edges crumbling beneath her fingers. "Read it," Kelly urged, her voice a whisper. Emma unfolded the letter, revealing elegant handwriting. "It's from Eleanor," she said, her heart racing as she began to read. "Dear Clara, my sweet girl," she read aloud, the words echoing in the quiet basement. "If you find this letter, it means that something has happened to us. I want you to know that we love you, and we are always with you, even if you cannot see us." The others leaned closer, drawn in by the words. Emma continued, her voice trembling. "We have always faced darkness, but our love can conquer even the deepest shadows. If you can find the strength to face your fears, you will always find your way back to the light." As she finished reading, a chill swept through the room, and the shadows seemed to grow thicker. "What does it mean?" Michael asked, glancing nervously around. "I think it's a message," Emma replied, piecing together the fragments of the past. Eleanor wanted her children to know they could always return, no matter what. Suddenly, the box trembled in her hands, and the letters fluttered, as if stirred by an unseen force. "It's like they want to be read," Kelly said, her voice filled with awe. Emma took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the letter's history. "There's something more here. We need to keep reading." One by one, they unfolded the letters, revealing stories of joy, loss, and love, the struggles of the Blackwood family, their hopes, their fears, and their unwavering bond. Each letter drew them deeper into the family's history, allowing them to understand the strength that had held them together even in the darkest times. But then they reached the final letter, one that felt different from the rest. Emma's hands trembled as she read, her voice barely above a whisper. "Dearest Lila, if you find this, it means the darkness has come. Remember, my love, to always seek the light. Do not be afraid, for you are never alone. Trust in the love we shared. It is the key to breaking the curse of the shadows. If you must confront them, know that we are with you." As Emma finished, the basement seemed to shift. Shadows danced at the edges of their vision, and a low, rumbling sound echoed through the room, growing louder and more chaotic. "What's happening?" Josh shouted, panic rising in his voice. "I don't know," Emma replied, holding the letters close to her chest. "But we need to find a way to calm this. Maybe we need to light a candle or something," Michael suggested, his eyes darting around the room. "Good idea," Emma said, nodding. "There must be something down here we can use." As they searched, Emma felt the energy in the room intensify. Shadows flickered and surged, almost alive. It was as if the house itself was aware of their actions, desperate to reclaim its lost history. "Here," Kelly called out, holding up an old lantern, its glass cracked but still intact. "We can light this." Emma hurried over, and together they rummaged through the boxes, finding old matches buried beneath the debris. With trembling hands, they lit the lantern, the warm glow pushing back the encroaching darkness. As the light filled the basement, the shadows began to recede, revealing the outlines of the space once more. The room felt lighter, and Emma could sense a shift in the atmosphere, a release of tension, a lifting of weight. But as they basked in the glow, a sudden crash reverberated from above. The ceiling creaked ominously, and dust fell like rain. "We need to go," Michael shouted, panic surging anew. Emma grabbed the letters, clutching them tightly. "We can't leave them. This is their story. The house is collapsing," Josh yelled, his voice laced with urgency. "We have to get out." They dashed toward the stairs, the lantern casting flickering shadows behind them. Just as they reached the door, a heavy beam fell from above, blocking their exit. "Emma!" Kelly cried, her voice rising in fear. "What do we do?" Heart racing, Emma looked back at the lantern, the light flickering wildly. "We have to hold on to the light," she shouted, her voice echoing in the chaos. "We can't let the darkness win." They gathered around the lantern, holding hands once more. "We need to remember what we learned," Emma said, her voice steady. "Love can conquer even the darkest shadows." As they focused on the warmth of the lantern, the memories of the Blackwood family filled their hearts, the laughter, the love, the courage. The shadows screamed, pushing back against the light, but Emma felt a surge of strength within her. "Together," she shouted, raising the lantern high. "We can break this." In that moment, the lantern glowed brighter than ever, illuminating the basement with a pure, golden light. The shadows writhed, shrieking in protest, but the warmth surged forward, engulfing them. And then, with a blinding flash, the light exploded outward, breaking the darkness apart. The beam blocking the door shattered, and the path opened wide before them. "Go! Go!" Emma urged, as the light enveloped them. They stumbled through the doorway, escaping the collapsing basement just as it imploded behind them. They tumbled onto the porch, breathless and shaken, the sun shining down on them like a beacon of hope. As they looked back, the house stood tall, but the shadows no longer clung to it. It felt lighter, as if it had finally exhaled. "We did it," Kelly gasped, her voice filled with disbelief. "We really did it." But as Emma turned to face her friends, she noticed something lingering in the air, a faint shimmer, like the remnants of a dream. "Wait, what about the letters?" "They're safe," Emma replied, her heart swelling with pride. "We honored their stories. They'll always be part of us now." As they walked away from Blackwood House, the laughter of children echoed faintly behind them, a soft reminder of the family they had saved. Emma knew that the journey didn't end there. The memories of the Blackwood family would live on in their hearts, and they would carry those echoes into the future. But the house, now free from its sorrowful past, had its own story to tell, a tale of love, loss, and redemption. And perhaps, just perhaps, it would stand as a guardian for those who ventured near, watching over them with warmth and light. With one last glance at the house, Emma smiled, knowing they had not only faced the darkness, but had also become part of a greater story, a story that would echo on long after they were gone.